Okay. So today we will try to, let's say, have this thing. Let's try to complete two part wherein like session 2 and session 3, which is purely on manual testing. Like so the first thing what we need to discuss is software development life cycle. So this is a common, you can say, practice which we usually consider whenever we are working in an, let's say, any of the project. Our project follow this methodology, this model usually, right? It goes through all the phases, which is like shown right now on my screen. It starts with requirement analysis, design, development, testing, and then the maintenance. Okay. So we have two cycles, guys. One is software development life cycle, and the second cycle is like software testing life cycle. Okay. So right now, what I am discussing in software development life cycle, wherein you are moving from one phase to other. Okay. So we have different, you can say, methodologies like waterfall model, spiral model, in which you will try to finish first phase. After that, you will move to the next phase, and then you will finish this design phase, then you will move to the third phase. Okay. So this is the, you can say, ideal approach what is being followed throughout our, like, you can say, software industry. Okay. And right now we will be working purely on the fourth phase, that is the testing phase. Okay. So let us discuss about a little bit in detail about waterfall model, spiral model. Okay, so over here you can see that once the phase is completed, like requirement analysis is completed, then only we will jump onto the next phase, that is system design. Okay, then we jump onto implementation, testing, deployment, and maintenance. So now, guys, just we will discuss at high level what happens in each one of this phase. Okay. So usually what does requirement analysis means basically? Can anyone guide me with this requirement analysis? What exactly we do under this particular module? Yes, anyone
That's
wants to?
information gathering concerning the project.
Yes. So we gather the required information, what is like relevant to your project. We try to make sure that all the information is documented under one this thing, okay, wherein everyone can go through that document, SOW, whatever we have, right? Everything is provided to all the stakeholders, all the teammates who are in the project, and they will be kind of going through the complete requirement which is being provided to them. Okay. Here it may happen that we may have various Figma design, we have mock flows, we have screenshots. So we have various things, guys. Okay. So that is actually part of your requirement analysis. The next is system design, guys. System design is nothing but you can consider like UI, UX. Right now, if you are aware, guys, we are having a lot of open source tools which are available over the market, which are helping us to kind of create your UI, UX, mock screen, Figma design, product InVision Studio. All these are the tools which are available and which are helping us how the UI will look in the web mode, how it will look in mobile mode. All these designs and everything is provided to us by our UI UX developer, guys. Okay. So once this system design is completed, as a development, you can say as a development engineer, the developer starts with the implementations of the design what is being discussed, and this development may happen in any of the languages. That depends what languages or what front end technologies we are using. It can be JavaScript, it can be Angular, it can be let's say C sharp, whatever it is. But we start with the implementation part. Okay. So after completing all these three phase, then only actually we will start with the QA part, guys. Okay. Then only the testing will start. So in testing, we have various deliverables to be delivered, such as creating test scenarios, test cases, requirement traceability matrix, creating test plan. Okay, so defect matrix, all this will be part of your deliverables in the testing phase. Okay, so once the testing is completed, then it kind of deploy to the like respective environments. It can be, let's say, QA environment, it can be stage environment, it can be pre-prod, it can be prod. So this deployment process happens, and then whatever new changes happen, so we come up with the approach of maintenance, guys. Okay. Now here we have some pros and cons of the waterfall model, like why this waterfall model has really got depreciated over the period of time. Okay, the reason for this is like obviously quality of the product will be good, obviously. This requirement changes are not allowed, guys. If today you have fixed any SOW or you have signed any of the this thing, right? You will not be allowed to modify your any of the document, anything, guys. Please remember this. Okay. Once the requirement is fixed by you, you will not be allowed to modify, not be allowed to change unless. And here what happens, the tester are involved at the later stage, right? So what happens, you are not like involving the QA from the start of the project. So you can consider the initial investment comparatively less in terms of waterfall, and it is purely preferred for the small project, guys, where you can consider it is taking for 4 months, 6 months, something like that. Okay, so for those type of project, it is purely preferred. The disadvantage is, guys, over here is since QA are involved only after like coding, guys. So testing will start only after once the coding is completed. Okay. And the requirement changes is not allowed, which becomes the disadvantage, because in today's competitive market, guys, every day or let's say after every week, there is new UI UX change over the product. If there is defect in the requirement, it will be continued, guys. So usually what happens in real time, guys, as a QA, you are also involved in the requirement gathering, in the design part, also in the implementation, so that the QA is actually from the start of the project, so that you can understand the complete end-to-end flow. But in case of waterfall model, that is missing. The total investment is more, because as I mentioned, the time to, let's say, resolve the issue is more than because you will identify the issue at the later stage of the, you can say, testing phase. Okay, so here the total investment will be more comparatively. Okay, because you might need to kind of perform the rework activity. Okay. Next is spiral model, guys. Spiral model is a iterative model. It is like multiple waterfall model. Okay, like each model, each loop will be considered as single waterfall model. Okay, so this type of cycle is usually referred, or usually you might see this type of cycle getting used in the app development, guys. Okay, when I say app development, please understand, you might see that after every week, after every 4 days, 5 days, there is a new update, or let's say new version, it is coming, it is showing up. Okay, so that comes under spiral model. Spiral model is a kind of iterative model. Okay, it is kind of trying to check, get the feedback, early feedback, implement those feedback, try to develop it, and try to release it. Okay, so in every cycle, we will be trying to release some or other new feature to this. Okay, so if today let's say there is a new feature which has been introduced in WhatsApp, after let's say 4 to 5 days, after let's say 1 week, we might introduce one more new feature, right? So this whole process happens in a spiral model methodology. Okay, and software will be released in multiple version, guys, because, and that's the reason this model is also called as version control model. Okay, and in this you see that on the right hand side, guys, there is a planning, cost, evaluation, all those things happen. This is like multiple waterfall model. Okay, so here also we will do the requirement gathering, prototype as in like design part. you will do the development and testing. After that, we have the customer evaluation, and you can consider over here the maintenance part. So this process is very like short span of time. Within 2 weeks, 1 weeks, you try to kind of manage all those things, because here the feature will be less. Okay. So only one thing is there in this, the first cycle which happens, that is time consuming. After that, you will be kind of doing the retesting of the entire feature again, and whatever new feature is getting added to your module or your sprint, only those validation you will do. Okay. So in this, you might do the testing multiple times. That's the advantage of spiral model. So in advantage, you can see the testing is done in every cycle before going to the next cycle. Okay. So customer will get used the software for every module. Here, if you notice, we have overcome the drawback of waterfall model, which is like requirement changes. So you will be allowed to change the requirement before going to the next cycle. Now, again, one more thing, in between cycle, you are not allowed to change the requirement. If I have made the sprint of, let's say, 4 weeks, and you are saying that I want to update some, let's say, Figma design, I need to update some UI, UX. Okay, that is not allowed, guys. Okay, you need to have all the stories refined. Everything should be done prior to kind of starting the sprint, and those stories and everything should be present into your product backlog. Then only you should start your sprint. Okay. Every single cycle of spiral model will be always looking, it will look like a waterfall model, guys. Okay. And over here in the requirement and design phase, guys, there will be no QA, there will be no testing. Testing will be only in the testing phase. The next is V model, guys, which is very popular, which is being used like all the terms and concept, whatever I will use right now, that is being used most frequent into our project. Okay. So you might heard this here, like every now and then, whether you have validated this, whether you have verified this, right? So this verification and validation both goes hand in hand in case of V model. So V model is kind of, you can see on the left hand side where verification is written, all the documentation related stuff is done under the verification part. And where the validation is written, all the testing related thing, or let's say all the type of testing is being done under the validation phase. Okay. Now try to understand what exactly we are doing over here. If you consider the verification, what we do is we are having lot of documentation, guys. Okay. When I say documentation, basically you create lot of, you can say, Word doc file, Excel, right? So all those Word doc file and Excel are relevant to your project. Okay. If you are using Atlassian tool, you might have lot of Confluence pages. Okay. So Confluence is one of the tool which is managed and maintained by Atlassian. On Confluence also, we have the documentation thing. So what exactly these documentations are all about? These documentations will consist of your coding practice, whatever coding standard you are following, whatever low level designs you have into your project, Figma, like flow diagram, flow chart, whatever is available, you will refer to them. HLD, that is high level design, if there are any, then software requirement specification, and even you will have the other documentations as well. Okay. So all this document, whatever we have, right, those are getting reviewed under the verification process. Okay. Please remember, guys, if your this documentations are correct, you will spend less time in your all this testing. Okay. If your documentation itself is having defect or itself is not correct, okay, you might spend more time in doing all this type of testing actually. Okay. So please remember, verification is very important and it is done prior to start the validation. So validation will happen after, once the verification is kind of completed. Okay. Now, in case of validation, we usually have total four a major type of testing, which is unit testing. Sometimes it is also referred as component testing, guys. Okay. Then we have the integration testing. Then two major type of testing, that is system testing and user acceptance testing. Okay. Now, unit testing and integration testing comes under a category called as white box testing, guys. Okay. Whereas UAT and system testing comes under a category called as black box testing. Okay. Now, to understand little bit about white box and black box, we will talk about that in the later session. But right now, unit testing, integration testing, system testing, and UAT, these are the four major pillar of validation, guys. Okay. We have a lot of other types of testing, which is obviously part of all these four testing types, which is being done under each one of them. Okay. So this is about V model. V model stands for verification and validation model. And here is the advantage. Testing is involved in each and every phase. And the disadvantage is you can say that the QA are involved from the start of the project. That's the reason we are kind of creating this documentation. So initial investment is comparatively more in case of V model, guys. Now over here, you can see that verification, it purely focuses on the documentations wherein the like this thing review, walkthrough and inspection that keeps on happening for the documentation part. And validation is something we are building the product, right? So here we actually do the actual testing. Okay. So we actually validate, we actually try to make sure that the UI are working fine, the flows are working fine. So all this happens in what? All this happens in case of validation. So validation is purely responsible for whether we are building the product right. Okay. Next is very simple, static versus dynamic, guys. Static means everything is same. Okay. Dynamic means your approach is to try to validate the field by providing some different random input to the field and try to check the behavior. What is the expected behavior? What is the actual behavior? And based on that, you will refer, or based on that, you will create issues or defect. Okay. Whereas static testing is a type of testing wherein you kind of do a review, walk inspection. You do a kind of you can consider dynamic testing is an approach of, you can say you are providing different input to a particular field. So example, you have age field, or you are having, let's say, first name field. So first name does not accept special character and it will not accept the numeric value also. So how the system is behaving, whether it is accepting or whether it is throwing some error. So all those validations happens in case of dynamic testing, guys. Okay. Static testing is like, I will give you like, let's say 4 to 5 document. Now your job is to identify whether the documents are correct or not. Okay. So what you will do, you will do a review at high level saying that, hey, why you have mentioned this flow over here? Can you mention it over there? Something like that. Those type of feedback you will provide, and based on those feedback, I might need to update, or let's say get the review feedback and try to update the document. Okay, so that comes under static testing. So just to do a quick recap, guys, today like we spoke about SDLC. I think after that we spoke about waterfall advantage and disadvantage. Then we have spiral model. What are the advantage and disadvantage? Then we covered about, we spoke about V model, what is verification, validation, and what is the difference between static and dynamic testing. At this point, anybody has any queries, any doubt, questions so far, guys, for this particular session, that is session 2? Any of the topic, whatever I have covered so far?
Can you repeat the verification and validation part?
Okay, sure. So
Thank you.
verification and validation model is something you can consider, you as a QA, you will be involved in the project from the start. Okay, so what all things we do is like we try to create some documentations. Okay, so those documentations will be like you kind of capture the screenshot. So it may happen that you can create a lot of documentation. Those documentations will be, let's say, low level design, high level design, then even the software requirement. Okay, so you create those document, or let's say refer to SRS, and you create on your own from the QA point of view. So this documentation is purely analyzed, purely validated by your QA architect as well, whoever is like team lead or someone. Okay, and he will validate whether your document is correct or not. Okay, so that thing comes under verification. Okay, so all the review process happens like whatever deliverables we have. So that process comes under verification. So that's what I was saying. If your verification is very accurate, guys, please remember you will have less number of issues comparatively into your validation. Okay, if your verification process itself is not good or not correct, you might face up with, let's say, finding 50 issue in one go. If your verification is very, very good, you might have only 10 to 12 or 10 to 15 issues into your module which you are validating. Okay. And in case of validation, we actually traverse to a website and start with the QA actually. Okay. So validation is actual testing, and all test, like we have total 4 types of testing that is coming under unit, or let's say component. After that, once the unit is completed, we will jump on to integration. Once the integration is completed, we will jump on to system. And once the system is completed, we will jump on to UAT testing. Okay, so in this way, you need to go from this particular section to this particular section. Okay, so once the UAT is completed, like, yes, we are good to go on prod or something, and your project is completely tested. Over here, your obviously the bug count or defect count should be 0 at this point. Okay. And the advantage and disadvantage over here is you can consider verification. It is purely focusing on what, guys? It is purely focusing on documentations. Okay, so what are the documentation? It can be, let's say, Confluence page, it can be PDF, it can be Word doc, it can be Excel, like whatever project related doc has been shared to you, you need to review, you need to make sure that everyone are on same page, everyone has understood the documentation. If there is any query, doubt, questions, please highlight them and try to make sure you are doing proper review, walkthrough and inspection. And if that's what verification is accurate, then validation will not take that much amount of time, because you have already understood the system. Now you are aware about all the flows, all the high level test cases, all the high level test scenarios. So for documenting them and for executing the test case, it will comparatively take less time. So validation is purely like actual testing of the software. Clear, everyone?
What is, yeah, what is exactly the difference between review, walkthrough, and inspection?
Walkthrough, review, walkthrough, and inspection. Yes,
Yeah, yes.
walkthrough, inspection, all this comes under a type of testing, you can say techniques, wherein review is something, let's say I am trying to, like I am sitting next to, let's say, one of my colleague. What will happen, like he has developed some automation script, correct? What happens, review is an informal technique, like wherein I just go to his system and see the code, and I will check that he has hard coded some of the values or something, correct? So that is something like kind of a normal review, wherein he is trying to make his code reviewed by some senior or someone who is already aware about this logic. So he might provide some review comment. Okay, second process is, let's say you have created a document, but you are not pretty much confident or not sure whether the document is correct or not. So what you will do, you will try to drop a mail something and try to ask for the review comment. Okay, so that comes under reviews section. Inspection is purely formal technique, guys. Okay, inspection is purely formal technique. Formal technique as in you will have a dedicated time slot for that. Okay, and there will be a team who will be, let's say, moderator, who will be inspector, all those people who will be reviewing your project, guys. Okay, like how many peoples are there in the project, why you have not added the comment in the Jira ticket, why you have not added the, let's say, screenshot, why video evidences are missing, why you have raised this many issues. All these questions happens in the inspection, guys. In inspection, it is a proper process where you will intimate, where you will get an intimation that after 3 days there will be a project inspection. So usually whatever best practices we have in case of agile, guys, we need to follow in our Kanban, or like you can say Scrum board. If you are not following, we will be questioned why we are not following. And by next inspection, they make sure that you follow those. If not, then obviously again the questions will be asked to the management. Okay, that is purely like inspection. It is a pure formal process, guys. Okay, we will intimate, like we will get the MOM, everything we will get over here. Walkthrough is again, guys, informal process wherein again you are trying to review the code for like of your colleagues or someone who is like, let's say, creating any of the documentation. Clear?
Yeah, yes, clear. Thank
Okay. Okay. Any more questions, guys? Anyone? If not, we'll move to one more this thing. I have one more to cover, which is about manual testing only. So let me see if it is. Okay. So you were having the questions. These are the topics today. Like this is again, we will discuss a little bit in detail about what is review, walkthrough, and inspection. Okay. So review, walkthrough, inspections comes under, guys, statics and dynamic testing techniques. So this is something whenever you create documentations with respect to QA part, right? All those documentations need to be reviewed. Okay. So this is a common practice we usually follow, whether you have created, let's say, the document on Confluence or Basecamp, any of the test management tool which you are using. Okay, if you are using any of them, then what happens is, like, we try to make a very this thing, like whenever we create it, once it is created, we will kind of share it with the all the stakeholders so that they can review it, right? Even before let's say changing anything, right? If you think that this can be a feature for your project, what you do, you try to update a long message somewhere in the Teams or Slack or any of the communication channel, and you try to convince the client that this is not looking good, you try to have it in this manner. So that is also one type of review, guys. Okay. So requirement review, it can be design review, code review, test plan review, test cases review, and many other type of review. Okay. That comes under review part, guys. Okay. Next is walkthrough. Walkthrough is a kind of informal review, okay, wherein you have no pre-planned activity. Like someone suddenly come to your desk, or someone have called you directly over Teams or Slack or any of the communication channel, and he might ask you, "Hey, what you have done till now with respect to this particular test case?" So you might need to answer what exactly we have done, what you are trying to achieve, right? You need to explain all those things. You what all positive test case you have considered. So that comes under, guys, informal review. Okay. Over here, you don't have any MOM. So you will just take whatever suggestion has been given at high level, you are not documenting anywhere or somewhere. For your reference, you note down in somewhere like Notepad plus plus or somewhere, but there is no MOM which is being shared at the end of the discussion. That comes under walkthrough, guys. Okay. Next is inspection, which I mentioned. We have a proper team, guys. Okay, proper team as in the team of 5 to 7 people, wherein they are coming, or let's say all the people are coming on the call, and they are like asking you to share your screen and explain the whole process, what you are being followed from start to end. Like once the development story is completed, what it is not like it is only for QA guys. Okay, it is also for the development people also. Okay, like development, whether they are attaching the unit test cases or not, whether they are running the Sonar Cube report or not, all this whatever is required from the development side also, because prior starting the QA, right, your development story should be fully unit tested. That's the prerequisite, guys. Okay, so that also they will validate whether it is attached or not. If it is not attached, there is no point of starting the QA for that particular story. Okay, so that all discussions happens in the inspection area. Okay, in inspection, you will have one reader, two writer, three moderator, and obviously like other stakeholder who will be kind of getting participate, and at the end you will get a proper MOM for this discussion, guys. Okay, what all steps or further steps you need to take to make sure that the error or whatever you are getting, those are the minimal. What is the difference between QA and QC? You will understand this with this diagram, guys. Quality assurance is more of like prevention technique, whereas quality control is kind of detection technique, guys. Okay. So when I say quality assurance, you are making like you are trying to prevent, or let's say you are preventing from issue to come. So in case of quality assurance, we will be more focused, more dedicated towards the documentation part, guys. Okay, that's what I told, right? If your documentation is very accurate, everything is fine, it has all the flows, all the diagrams, everything, then the number of issues which you will encounter in case of quality, this thing, quality control, it will be really very less. Okay, so quality assurance is a kind of preventive techniques, and quality control is a kind of detection logic, right? You will try to identify as much as issue you can. Okay, that's happened in quality control. So we as a QA are working actually both, that is QA as well as QC. But if you consider the percentage, it is like 30% it is in quality assurance, and remaining 70% we actually validate the software, guys. Okay. So when I say 30%, like you will be responsible for creating test cases, test scenarios, test plan, test strategy, a test execution report, defect matrix, all those deliverables will come under quality assurance, guys. Okay. So QA is a process related, QC is the testing of the software. QA focuses on building in quality, whereas QC focuses on testing for the quality. Like you will actually validate the software. QA is a preventive, or second QC is a detective logic, right? Process and product. Okay, so QA is purely like you will follow some process in creating docs and everything, but QC is a product oriented. QA will remain for entire SDLC, guys. Okay, it is not only for let's say QA thing, it is also for development, maintenance, requirement analysis, because over there also you need to make sure the documentations are correct, guys. Okay, but quality control will be for entire, you can consider like it's a part of one of the module, that is of software development life cycle. Okay, now we have three major types of testing methodologies: white, black, and gray. Okay, so you will just have high level idea from the diagram itself. When I say this white box, guys, it is purely like you are trying to, you are able to see what is being written inside. So you can see that we are having input. You are able to see some of the code over here, and we are getting something called as output. Okay, so please remember in white box, there were two distinct testing type, unit as well as integration. Okay, so in case of white box, please remember, whoever is the white box tester, he should have the programming skill set or coding skill set. Okay, because over white box testing, you are actually validating the code part in a, like, whatever code is being written, you will try to check the code as well. Okay, so because what I mentioned is unit testing is done by what? Whom? Developer. So developer will attach the unit test case report, but again, from the QA side, we will do the unit testing, correct? And you will validate the internal application code which is being written. And based on that, you will follow this flow. In case of black box, the QA will not have the knowledge of internal code, internal logic, what is being written, right? You will just take a test case input and you will get the test case output, and it only does like what, whether the customer whatever functionality customer has decided, whether that is working fine or not, that's it, nothing else. They are not dealing with any code logic, any let's say what is the flow diagram, nothing is required. They are worried, they are bothered only about, I have passed some value, I have clicked on this, I should be able to perform this action. So that's the black box testing, guys. Now, combination of both, where there is some coding also involved, there is some, let's say, black box, both the combinations that comes under gray box. So DB part, guys. Okay. So whatever queries you are writing, right, such as select star from table, select star from table where employee is equal to, all those SQL queries, guys, everything will come under gray box testing. So database testing is nothing but you are trying to validate whether the record has been created successfully or not. So for that, what you will do, once you have, let's say, registered on any of the application, on registration, you will get a message saying that your registration was completed. After that, what you will do, you will go to the DB, you will try to run some query, guys, whether whatever data you have inserted during the registration, those data is being reflected or not. Okay, so that comes under gray box testing strategy. Now, these are the four major pillar of software testing, guys: unit, integration, system, and UAT. And out of that, system testing is having few more categorization, guys. Other than this, unit, integration, UAT are like whatever we have spoken. Okay, same thing we are doing under that. But in system testing, you need to do few more different types of testing, which is part of your QA, guys. Unit testing, as I mentioned, we will be performing the individual component. It is also called as unit testing. It is purely done by developer, but from the QA side also we should do one more round. But ideally it is done by developer. Integration testing, once the modules are unit tested, we will try to integrate them. We will try to make sure that the flows are working fine from one page to other page. So that comes under integration test. So whatever unit test component has been validated, we will group them, we will merge them and do end-to-end integration testing. Next is system testing. Whatever has been created so far, we will try to validate in various different browsers, OS combination. So you are validating whether that is working as per our expected logic in all the different system. After that, we have UAT, guys, user acceptance test, wherein you are kind of, you might have heard this term saying beta testing, alpha testing. So that happens in the acceptance test scenario. Next is unit testing. We will just discuss at high level. Unit testing is conducted by developer. It is a white box testing because you will be having the knowledge of internal code, what is being written. It is purely on single program or single module. And these are the basic things which we usually do when it comes to unit testing, guys. Okay. So basis path testing, control structure testing, loop coverage, conditional statement if there are any, mutation testing, all this will be in the unit testing. Okay. Over here you can see one diagram wherein like we have the UI level as well as the code level. So code level will be done by developer and UI level will be done by the actual QA people. Integration comes under again white box, guys, and here the logic is we will make sure the communication is happening correctly between different modules. Okay, so that is comes under integration testing. Okay, so over here you can see a diagram saying that if I need to check deleted mails, so you will not be able to skip this mailbox. For checking deleted mail, it is mandatory to go via mailbox and then you will actually perform the delete action, right? So this is something like this module is related to this, and after that this is related to this, right? So that comes under, you can say, end-to-end flow. Integration is purely like two type, incremental and non-incremental. Incremental means top-down approach, okay, and bottom-up approach. Like you are validating module 1 first, then module 2, then module 3. Okay, so that becomes like, you can say, incremental, like top-down. Second one is bottom-up, guys. In bottom-up, we will do module 3 first, module 2 second, and module 1. So usually what happens in real time, we might follow any one of them. Okay, so over here, what happens in top down? Module 1 is validated first, then module 2 and 3, and then 4, 5, 6. So 4, 5, 6 are grandchild of module 1. Okay, so we obviously make sure whatever modules are there, it is like validated of the previous child. But in case of bottom up, guys, we actually validate first the child, this thing, grandchild, then child, and then actual module. Okay. So it depends upon the type of project. We might have both the approaches. It's if it is a combination of both, that is incremental and non-incremental, this thing top down and bottom up, that comes under sandwich approach, hybrid approach. Okay. Then we have the big bang, wherein you are trying to validate everything at one shot. So usually this happens during the initial days of your project. They might give you a URL. They might ask you, hey, do one thing, create one Excel and note down all the issues which you can see over this application. So that is coming under, you can say, you are trying to validate everything at single shot. Okay, so that type of testing, we usually called it as big bang testing or non-incremental integration testing. Over here, you don't need to have the complete knowledge of the application, guys. The only thing is your intention is to identify the defect. That's it, nothing else. Okay. Next is very, very important, guys, system testing. Okay, so system testing comes under the category, as I mentioned, what is that? Black box. If you try to understand this, guys, system testing has various other types of testing, that is GUI, functional, non-functional, and usability. Okay. So anybody, what is non-functional? What type of testing comes under non-functional?
Performance maybe?
Okay.
Like globalization, miss
Performance
language,
testing.
Globalization is correct. Performance is correct. Any other?
coverages,
Load testing, endurance testing, stress testing.
Yes. We have one more that is very important called security testing. Okay, so that also comes under NFT. Okay, so two major types of testing, guys. That is localization, globalization. That is correct. But two major type of testing is performance and security actually. Okay, so which we usually do with under system testing, guys. Okay, now if you ask that like, are we going to do? Obviously, no. We will have a dedicated PT, performance tester. We will have a dedicated ST, that is security tester, guys. Okay, who will be kind of doing this end-to-end performance testing, end-to-end security testing. Okay, it may happen that they will require one new, let's say, altogether environment, which is replica of what? Which is replica of production. This thing. Okay, it should be replica of production because you are doing the performance testing of production environment. Okay, so they might have a separate instance altogether which they are working on. and they obviously do end-to-end PT performance testing for API, as well as they are doing for the UI part. Okay, and same is the case with a security tester as well. Security for UI as well as security for the API. Okay, both should happen. So both will be done by your security tester, guys. Okay, other than this NFT, guys, all type of testing as a QA we will be able to do it. Okay, but for NFT, we will have a dedicated other person who will be working on the NFT areas. Okay. So under system testing, you will see that we will be actually validating the functional requirement. Okay. Whatever is available, whatever it was planned in the sprint. And it is usually done once the component and integration is completed, guys. Okay. Then only we will start with the system testing. And over here, we will usually have a lot of discussion actually in functional testing. Okay, because over here you will raise issues, defect, you need some clarification with the developers. All these discussions will happen in the FT, functional testing. Okay. User acceptance, sorry, user interface testing is GUI, guys, and usability testing is like look and feel and other factor which will come into consideration. Okay, so that comes under usability testing. Okay, so one more thing, guys. I know like this few of the session will be purely like theoretical. Okay, the reason is they will be completely like concept related, guys. Okay, because I won't be able to kind of talk in terms of what are the practical oriented. Obviously, once we start with the Java part, all the session will be like practical oriented. So just to give you this thing, whatever we have discussed, okay, usability, UI, let us try to have one real-time few of the websites, and I want you to answer what you feel based on your experience. Okay, so let me talk about few URLs. Okay, um, everybody have heard about Airbnb, right? And everybody have heard about IRCTC, which is like the railway reservation, this thing. Okay. So at high level, guys, what do you feel the UI of which website is comparatively better than which one and why?
This UI is not good, but as compared to previous Airbnb.
Just a second, guys. Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, this UI is good as
Comparative.
compared to IRCTC, because IRCTC is locally to understand all people, so easily understand
Mhm.
how to miss to that's regarding miss to.
Now I will introduce one more website, skyscanner.co.in. Okay. Now, if you try to compare this three website, obviously this three website has different businesses, guys. Okay. The first thing is it purely depends on the type of business which this particular application are into. Okay. So over here, if you notice carefully, this website UI, if you try to check in all the aspect, like when I say all the aspect, basically whether it is uh, browser compatibility, everything, right? This website is purely like will be able to help you in all the mode, okay, irrespective of whether you are using any of the OS, any of the browser, right? Airbnb, on the other hand, you will see that the images which is being used on this website are like very high config, guys. Okay. The image quality which is being used over here are of very, very high resolution. Okay. That's the reason this website obviously will be more this thing. The UI UX is comparatively best compared to other website. On the other hand, IRCTC, guys, as you said rightly, that it should be like whoever is operating this, they should be able to understand all the options. Okay, so that's the reason they have kept everything very clear. Okay, usually at the header section, this is called header section, right? You see that we are having this header also, and we are having this header also. Getting my point? So basically there are two this thing header. One is like the one which is starting from login, register, agent login, all this. And second one is this one, guys. Okay. So usually whenever a website is being developed, or let's say whoever is doing the coding this thing, usually we don't have two headers at the top, guys. Okay. You will have only single header. Okay. And obviously, right, because this is IRCTC, because it has a lot of options, so there is no space over here. So that's the reason they are kind of dividing or segregating using like some logic, and that's the reason they have segregated in this two manner. Okay. Again, every website, depending upon the type of business, nature of business, right, they will be obviously having the look and feel of the application, guys. Okay. And over here, I just want to know from you all. I just want to validate this feature only flight. Okay. I want high level count of the test scenarios or test cases only for this particular section. Okay. Can anybody tell me, or let's say lump sum count of the number of test case which we can consider for validating this particular feature? Lump sum count. What do you think? I need to validate this from, to, departs, return, traveler and cabin class, and these three checkboxes.
12 to 15 test cases are written for this, for only functional, not any non-functional or, but
12.
only function. Yeah,
Next, any other?
20 test cases we might require.
Okay. So now my question is, how you will make sure, how you will validate, or what you will validate all the countries or all the states, whatever is available, and like whatever countries all over the world which are available. So how you will do this scenario? I mean, from and to, correct? My question is because in this thing, right? In India itself, we have almost like more than 100 cities, right? And two, you will have obviously more than 100 cities. So how you will validate? Whether you will use some approach, or how is it? What would be prerequisite? What high level points you will keep in consideration whenever you are validating from and to? Only this thing I want to know.
for this later one, already one document is provided for that time is from or to which type of from is released there is and which type of city is there. So to validate as per the document and that
Okay.
document to write the test cases, means written the test case.
Mm-hmm. So whenever such a this thing arises, yeah, you obviously can refer the documentation and everything. That is fine. So because over here you have a lot of, so the prerequisite is obviously from and
It
to
shouldn't
cannot.
be same.
Yes, from and to cannot be same. Those type of pointers you will already have somewhere noted or documented, and you will use the approach of actually like error this thing guess estimation. Guess estimation as in like you will randomly select some of the city, and you will have random selection over here also. If it is working fine for that proper 10 combination or 15 combination, whatever you have selected, then you will make an assumption saying that it will work for other cities as well. Okay, that usually happens in case if your data or this thing is very, very huge, guys. Okay. And obviously over here you have some prerequisite, like you will have something already for calendar. You will get high level test cases. You will not be able to select the prior date. You will not be able to select 1 year plus or something, right? All those prerequisite will be documented, and based on those documentation only you need to kind of generate or create your test cases, test scenarios, test strategy, test documents, guys. Okay, similar case for the cabin class also. Like here, guys, usually we can have many test cases actually, because here you need to validate four check this thing, guys, four drop down option, correct? And total 16 plus, like here the this thing is only till 8, guys. Okay, so this 8 can be combination of this 6 and this 2. So here you can see that it is asking 8 plus 8, 16. So we need to kind of try to have high level test cases based on this also, right? Once you have selected this depart date, then arrival date or return date should be obviously after that, right? So all those high level test cases will be documented for the dates, calendars and everything. So everything should be included into your test scenarios or test cases, whatever you are writing. And over here also we have total 3 selections, guys. Okay, so again this combinations increases actually. Okay, so if you select direct flight, you will get limited option. If you select add nearby airport, you will get little bit more option, right? So all this we need to understand, and based on that only you will have high level test cases writing. Clear, everyone?
Yes.
Okay, so today I think we spoke about 2 sessions. Anybody has any queries, any doubts, any questions, please feel free to ask. So I just discuss about this different types of testing techniques. Okay, we will continue our discussion on manual testing, guys. Okay, most probably 2 to 3 more session. After that, we will start with the Java programming languages, guys. Okay, so I'll stop the recording, guys. Let me stop the recording.